Hello, everyone. Let's discuss this question from October-November 2024, variant 1-1. And this is question number 2, which is of 4 marks, and this is divided into two parts, and each part is of 2 marks. Now, having a look at this question, the question over here reads, from the study by Saavedra and Silverman, button phobia. Now, I'd like to assume we all remember what the study was about. The study by Saavedra and Silverman was conducted in 2002. This study focused on a case of button phobia, which is an example of specific phobia. This was about a young boy and the effectiveness of exposure therapy in treating that young boy. If we speak about the aim of this particular study, the aim was to examine the effectiveness of exposure therapy, which included imagery exposure in treating this boy with an extreme phobia of buttons. He was 9 years old he was diagnosed with a severe phobia of buttons that interfered with his daily life. Now, taking this further, having a look at this question, the question over here reads, outline the change in ratings of distress when the boy had to imagine hugging his mother with her shirt full of buttons. So, having a look at this question, the question says outline. The word used over here is outline. This is the keyword, or rather say the command word that is being used over here. What does the word outline over here mean? If you have a look at the syllabus, the examiner says, when I use the word outline, you're expected to set out the main points. So this is what the examiner means when the examiner uses the word outline. Now, what is to be outlined over here? Outline the change in ratings of distress. The change in ratings of distress when the boy had to imagine hugging his mother with her shirt full of buttons. Now, before we could hop on to the example that the examiner has given us, let's quickly have a look at the guidance over here. Now, this is from the original research paper, and this reads, figure 3 shows how his rating decreased from 7, that is immediately before the exposure, to 4, that is midway through the exposure, to 2, that is immediately after the exposure. Now, give this a look on the x-axis and y-axis. So we have session time frame and severity rating. So this has to do with the time frame over here. And this has to do with the severity rating 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, having a quick look. Now, see, this is around 7. This is near 4, and this is near 3. Now, see, figure 3 shows how his rating decreased from 7, that is immediately before the exposure, to 4, that is midway through the exposure, to 3, that is immediately after the exposure. Now, this is just to help you understand, right? Now, taking this ahead, if we give the example that the examiner has provided us a read here, 1 mark per correct point. You're expected to outline. Remember, when the examiner uses the word outline, the examiner means you need to set out the main points over here. So taking this further, if we speak about this example, the severity rating began at 7, then decreased to 4, and at the end of the session was 3. You just write this, and this is more than enough to help you hit a 2 on 2. You're not missing out on any mark at all. Now, reading further, the ratings decreased from session 1 before imagery exposure to session 2, that is midway through the imagery exposure. Number 3, the ratings further decreased from session 2, that is midway through the imagery exposure, to session 3, that is after the exposure. Or you could say the ratings decreased from session 1 before imagery exposure to session 3 after imagery exposure. I'll pick up another color so that it's easier for you. The largest decrease was from session 1, that is before the exposure, to session 2, midway through the exposure. Now, having a quick look, if this, I read all of this to help you understand what all could have been written to help you score full marks. But I believe if I would have been a student, I would have written the severity ratings began at 7, then decreased to 4, and at the end of the session was a 3. Now, for this, you do understand you need to know the procedure, the findings of the study. There are these, I like saying, nitty gritty details that you cannot miss on. There are many students who just want to go through the, go through the or rather say overview the study and then they expect to score full marks. You might not be able to do that, so you need to know your studies real well. Since you still have time, put your time to the right use and try learning the bits and details from every particular study. Now, quickly moving on to the second part of this question: explain one weakness of this phobia. So you have to explain one weakness of this phobia. And when the examiner uses the word explain, the examiner wants you to set out purposes or reasons or make the relationships between things clear or say why and or how and support with relevant evidence. So explain, like I said, this command word explain. I'm using the word command word over here because the CI uses the word command word for this, or you could also refer to this as a keyword or the important term from the particular question. So set out the purposes or reasons, or make the relationship between things clear over here, or say why or how and support with relevant evidence. So if you talk about this 2 mark question, you get the first mark for identifying a weakness, and you get the second mark for explaining the weakness via example from the study. So taking this further, this study lacks generalizability. You write that, you get the first mark, as it was a case study on one child with a phobia of button and he may be unique. Now remember what is getting you the first mark and what is getting you the second mark. You're getting the first mark for identification and you're getting the second mark for explaining in particular context. Now, keeping this in mind, know that the examiner says you would not be credited, you would not get a mark if you simply write it was a rare phobia. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you know now that you need to know details about these studies. I hope this was helpful. Thank you.